Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Successful Garden Design Show. Now in this episode we're going to feature a client garden that I've just finished designing, and it's a wide shallow garden with lots of different changes in levels to contend with. If you're frustrated your garden doesn't look as beautiful as it could, even though you've purchased lots of lovely plants, then help is at hand. Plants are not enough. You have to have a good design layout. And when you combine design with the beauty of plants, that's when the magic really happens. It's our mission here at Successful Garden Design to show you how to do it, and it's much easier than you may think. I'm Rachel Mathews, and I've been a professional international garden designer for over 25 years, and I teach garden design online. Now before I show you the design solutions I've come up with for this garden, I just want to quickly tell you about the brand new Successful Garden Design Diploma. Now this is an addition to our Pro course, which is the Great Garden Formula. So if you want to get our in-house qualification and listing on our business page to show you that you're one of our Successful Garden Design elite designers, then just head on over to greatgardenformula.com and scroll down to the diploma section of the page, and you'll get all the information that you need there. Okay, so let's tackle this garden. So as you can see, the garden has some beautiful views of the English country landscape beyond, and I'm actually the third designer that they've called in to tackle this garden. Here's one of the plans that a landscaping company submitted to them, and as you can see it's a little bit disjointed. The garden doesn't really flow, and it certainly doesn't link with that beautiful countryside view that they've got beyond them. And then there's these 3 or 4 different levels happening in the garden which also need to work as a whole entity and not have it as disjointed as it is now. So I'm now going to show you the edited highlights of the video that I presented to the client on my design solutions. Okay, so I've tried to sort out the levels but also make it so that you've got lots of interest going on in the garden, and also when you've got a garden that's wider than it is longer, you kind of feel you don't get the benefit of the space because it's all going that way. So by dividing it in sort of 2 defined areas like I've done here, enables you to create almost 2 different gardens within one space. Now with the retaining wall, I know on your original drawing it was sort of about here and it went in a straight line. What I've done is, I don't know if you can see there's a difference in colour between the orange is here, because I put a brick edge around the lawn so we've got a defined shape, but if you look at this one it's slightly darker on the outside, so that is where I would put your retaining wall. Now depending on how much the garden slopes, you may not need the retaining wall to come right the way around. It might just sort of taper here, but I've drawn it in as if it goes right the way around because they did that on the original drawing. That retaining wall did seem to take up a lot of the garden. So then we're sort of dealing with the changes in level, but we're making each part of the garden much more usable. And because we've got defined shapes, you've got so much more freedom with how you tackle those level changes. So I've popped the step in just here, and another one potentially in here if need be. You've got basically lots of control. Wherever you've got a defined shape, that can be higher or lower than the things around it. So one thing is, you don't want to be spending an absolute fortune. I mean, you've got a great budget for this garden, a very good starting point, but you don't want to blow it all on shifting soil around and fiddling too much with levels. So the important part when you've got slopes is from left to right, if you can get that reasonably level, that's sort of visually looks good. You can allow a bit of a slope from top to bottom, and then you don't have to move quite the amount of soil. So don't worry about getting this absolutely bang level unless you're wanting to use it for a bowling green. But if you're not, it's fine to slope it from top to bottom, and that will mean less soil moving. Now I've separated the areas with an archway, and obviously I put a bit of paving in here because you don't want lawn there, as that would be a bit of a wear patch. That archway I've popped in there, it's completely optional, you don't necessarily need it. I just thought it might be quite a nice feature. And then just like on your original design where you've got the view of the landscape beyond lining up with the patio windows there, so I've done the same because that works really well. Again, I've framed that view with sort of an archway or pergola, whatever you want to call it, and then a gateway out into the field. And then another seating area for as the sun moves round, you've got sort of full sun, and this patio area here, it will catch some sun, and I've extended it to a similar size that they had on that original drawing. So mine just sort of comes round like that a bit more. And the reason I've taken it to the side is just to create the shape there with the rest of the garden, which I'll show you in a moment. And then this little section here, obviously you're not going to sit there, so I've popped sort of planting in. So this would be a brick edge around the patio, because when you cut paving to a shape like this, often as not, you'll end up with tiny little sections sometimes, and the bricks just help hold those in place. And also that will tie in with the lawn here. And as you can see, I've carried those shapes and that flow right the way to the front. On the original plan, there was some trees here, so I don't know whether they're existing, but I've popped them in, and then just a bench and sort of gravel area here. Even if you never sit there, it's sort of just a nice focal point. And then a little bit of break in the planting here to get you through to the driveway if you ever need access. So if these planting borders are too large, you can always keep these shapes and just make them a little bit larger, and then you've got a bit less planting. But I've sort of popped in what I think will look good, but it can always be adjusted if that's a bit too much. And so that it's nicely open, by separating the two areas off, I don't want you to feel sort of claustrophobic and enclosed too much. So the planting here, because it's herbs and a mixture of cobbles and different sized stones, so it's not solid planting, so you can kind of see through, so you're not going to feel too enclosed. The bulk of the planting is in this section here. Let me just show you a quick sketch that I did. It's a very, very quick sketch, but I know it can be hard to visualize sometimes. But anyway, that's sort of the view from the house. You've got a nice oval lawn there, possibly a gazebo. That archway, as I say, completely, optional, and then view through to the fields, etc. beyond. And then this can be quite helpful, just coming down lower, you can kind of see how the curves kind of work together and how everything interlinks, so you can see those shapes sort of cut in nicely. Now, so if you'd like me to come up with a concept plan for your garden, just head on over to successfulgardendesign.com/design-service. So I hope this episode has inspired you to design your own garden, and if you'd like some help with that, I offer some free web classes at successfulgardendesign.com/free classes, and there's 3 to choose from, one for small gardens, one for any size of gardens, and also there's one for those of you that want to learn design professionally. So just head on over to successfulgardendesign.com/free classes, and I look forward to seeing you in one of those classes soon. Take care.